stable. Oh yeah, no label. Oh yeah, you know me. I have only a path. I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win. I don't want no fake love, I want the real stuff. Everybody listen up, cause I'll only say it once. I'm gonna show you all the path. If you want it bad, I'm gonna show you where it's at. Yeah, how you can get it back. Yeah, cause I ain't never done. I'll be number one, working hella hard until I get just what
have any Rondo Cup ever, and this is going to be the first time that we're looking at Rondo on esports level big tournament, and it's going to be the regional clash just to celebrate the new map with, I have to say, I feel like it's a total different game and a total different league right now with Rondo coming in for this season. So I'm looking forward, especially when it comes to like PMGO, and also there's a Smash Roll. There's some new things coming up, Contra. I'm like super stoked about this.
That's right. If you guys are brand new to this, of course, let's explain what the Smash Rule is. So we will be setting the benchmark at 30 points, and the team that reaches 30 points onwards, they have to win the next map to be crowned as the champions. And of course, they're playing for a hefty sum of prize, and 20k is on the line.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is straightforward when it comes to the money and the bling bling ka-ching. It's gonna be pretty obvious. It's a big, massive margin of difference between the second and the first place. By the way, it's $2,000 of difference between the first and second place. Imagine. But at least, right, Contra, everybody gonna go back happy because they will get something by end of today, including even the 16th place. They still get $500. But when it comes to our participating teams, we want to welcome the teams from
always
South
do
Asia.
it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along. Push myself to be the best, die with no regrets. Live with every breath, see my message start to spread. And I had so many dreams, then you hit your teens. Life ain't really what it seems, try to find out what it means. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all the art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do.
We have 7E Alian, and we have At3G Iron, and also Sky come up from Hora. I think these names are huge, and it's gonna be a fun one today.
Absolutely. Of course, not forgetting some of the boys coming in from DRS as well. I'm definitely a big fan of the Purple Hearts Aura Esports, where we'll get to actually see them be in action. So far, things are looking really stacked here. And of course, I did mention the DRS. We have Delta to be their featured player out there, alongside with Sinister from A1 Esports, ATR's very own Mamba, and of course, our world champions, P plus Kia's very own Nobu.
And don't forget RNG, we have Jibna coming up from the PMCL. Also, YG, Young Galactic, also a legacy named Monet. I mean, I'm a big fan of Monet once upon a time, but I don't know where he's at right now. It's been a while we actually saw him. But for today, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Don't know what map we're playing. There's a reason why it calls a Rondo's Cup. So it's gonna be a Rondo all the way here today. But question is, will we go down to the 6th match or not? Because when it comes to the eligible point, when it comes to Smash Rule, the bar and the standard is not too much. It's only 30 points for the eligible points for today.
Yeah, you actually bring up a really big factor here. If a team gets 2 chicken dinners back-to-back that scores them higher than 30 points, the match could end just by the end of match 2, or it could go all the way to match 6. So it could be a really short night, or it could be a really long one. But I really do hope that at least we'll get ourselves at least 4 matches for everybody to see how exciting this brand new map of Rondo really is, because there's just so many features. Where do we even start? New vehicles, new style of play, as well as equipment, and not forgetting all these exciting places in the city to explore.
Now, if you thought that you know and you knew PUBG Mobile back in the days, it feels like for me, right, you have to approach it on a different perspective entirely when it comes to this new map. And we talked about this before, I mean, like off the screen before, right, Contra, that this will be implemented in the esports in the future, very near future. In fact, probably in the next one, global stage even. And we talked about how the teams actually will have clean slate when it comes to their skill-wise and their mastery when it comes to this map, particularly Rondo. There's so many things to get unpacked here today. We talked about not just it's the biggest map. I mean, sorry Mirama, now you're being pushed down to second place because Rondo do have more land, despite it's like 8 by 8 kilometers, but when it comes to land to water ratio, this is like almost 100%.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, and it really feels like it's a good marriage between all the kind of maps that has existed prior to this, where Rondo will give you yourself a little bit more of that valley action if you guys are playing over in the high ground terrains, plenty of urban settings to play from that does give off a little bit more of that Erangel vibes. But I think that Rondo definitely will have its identity of its own. I mean, when we go into this vast map, we're already starting off with potential of having 2 flight paths to move into the map. So teams might need not to worry about, you know, options left on the table, but for certain, we're going to see a lot of flights taking place. So it will be very fast paced because even the zone actually shrinks a lot quicker than the other matches when it comes down to the first phase of the zone.
The fact that it has its own respective 2 flights in there, 2 flight path, that just explains how big this map is. Nobody else get 2 flights, only for this one, okay? So for when it comes to getting into the map, we talked about how new vehicles coming in, and I feel like it's compulsory. I definitely know it's a compulsory for the players to have the vehicles. And when it comes to vehicles as well, there's so many things we have to also put in our mind. That's going to be the EMP field or zone. There's also like, what kind of vehicles do you want to go for? Do you still want to go for the gas can or the EV vehicles, the electrical vehicles, or just, you know, for me, it's always going to be the horse. I don't know if the horse will get disabled by EMP zone, but I don't think so.
I don't think so. It'll be pretty interesting. Are you riding a mecha horse if that's going to be the case?
That's the reason why I prefer the horse over all the rest of the vehicles down there, because this map will catch you whenever you have your guard down. And that's something like, you know, I feel like whoever actually create and actually make this map is actually a total genius. It's like when you have the question, what do you want to have in a map? He said just yes. So it's going to be everything packed in one big map here.
Absolutely, and that is the beauty of it. And speaking of beauty, of course, we got so many beautiful cities for them to loot off from, which also has surprises of their own depending on where these teams are looking to drop. If they do want to prioritize maybe the areas around the central region, then it's going to be Bamboo, Test Track, Neox Factory, Stadium, where you would expect a lot of teams wanting to fight for those hotspots. Meanwhile, if you were to actually stretch maybe a little bit offskirts from the central terrain, you have big cities like Yulin, where you can also get high tier loot, and they can even challenge guards to even get some of all these exclusive loots and perhaps get some hefty purchases. And also keep in mind that we also do have emergency parachutes that they could also use to reposition in this big map. So that I'm hoping to see, how do these pro players actually put that to good use.
Now, if you guys happen to be new in PUBG Mobile, I know we've been spitting a lot of verbal diarrhea out there when it comes to the terms and all the names, and it might be a bit overwhelming for you guys, but hang on to your seats because we will break it down one by one as much as we can, because for me personally, I haven't unpacked every single thing in Rondo just yet, despite it just being released like, what, 2 weeks time, and it's still a lot to discover. And we talked about Rondo as a big map in the future too, so I'm looking for if, you know, if we're gonna have the same supply market or all those revival as well in different maps in the future, because if it's only happening in Rondo, then you have to have that very specialist just to play in Rondo. Not everybody can, jump from Rondo to Miramar to Erangel to switch in between. So I don't know what's gonna be like when it comes to the esports of PUBG Mobile in the future, with Rondo mechanics being so complex and so much fun to watch. But I feel like, especially when it comes to the Smash rule set, I think the Smash rule will be really smashing the entirety of the PUBG Mobile scene, because in case you guys don't know, I feel like every single tournament after this in PUBG Mobile, we're probably gonna have the Smash rule implemented. Now, if you guys happen to be new, this first Smash rule was implemented during the PMSL Southeast Asia last 2 weeks. So Smash rule is basically there's a benchmark of points that you have to reach despite you got yourself a chicken dinner. Example, in this tournament for the Rondo's Cup PMRC, the eligible point, the benchmark is going to be 30 points. Now, even though you get the chicken dinner, you already hit the mark 30 points in the same map, it will not count. So you have to score the 30-point benchmark first, separated, and you have to be later. The chicken dinner have to be later, the second map. So you have to reach 30 points first, despite you got chicken dinner that map. It will not count for your chicken dinner to win that one. After you got the 30 points benchmark, the next map, you have to score the chicken. That's where things get really tricky, because there'll be so many teams. My experience, right, Contra, in the arena in the PMSL Southeast Asia prior to this tournament, whenever the team that's eligible to get that chicken dinner just to end the round or the run for the entire day, everybody claps and cheers so hard in the arena when that eligible point team being taken down.
Wow.
So it means that everybody else will get a chance and have a shot at getting, the trophy by end of that day.
Yeah, that's the beauty about this Smash rule, where you think that you're true just because you have just about enough points, but you couldn't secure that win. Then you just got to try and try again. And anybody at any given point in time could also meet that same mark, or what we could just basically call it, right? That 30 point right now is just a passport. You need another chicken dinner to end the round, which is not easy to do when you have some of the best teams in the world right now stacked in this specific lobby. And I think that the biggest curveball right now is that how much time of practice do some of all these pro teams even get playing inside Rondo? Apparently it's less than 1 month, right? So I think that it's going to be an absolute free for all. It's anyone's game to take here.
You break it down more concise and more precise from my better than I do, because I'm so excited. I jumbled up with words sometimes, but yes, that's exactly as it is. So Smash rule is going to be something that they have to really put in their minds for the players. Plus, this is a new map, so it's sort of an alienated or unknown territory for most of the players when it comes to the rotations of the team, how they want to play, how they want to drop it. And also when it comes to the guns, right, we do have the stun gun, like we mentioned before. I want to see if there's any deadly duo that really want to implement using the stun gun by, I'm going to stun, you're going to shoot it from here. Because the stun gun, in just specifically in Rondo, you not just disable your opponent, you will also blind them for quite a number of seconds too.
Wow, that is going to be a deadly threat if anybody actually gets stunned in the midst of a battle where you're just rendered unable to even react in that form of an instance. And not only for forgetting about just the stun gun earlier, I'm glad that you pointed out that we also do have new weapons such as the JS9. You did mention that you have tried a couple of rounds using the JS9, and it definitely does feel good, right?
It's more robust, it's more stable, and the recoil is just amazing. And when you use like a UMP9, for example, right, a different SMG, the sound don't sound as solid. You like and they kind of as like slapping sound, but this one really a good sound. It sounds like, oh, that's beautiful, that kind of feeling when you actually shoot from the new weapon. But when it comes to Rondo, so much to break it down. And when it comes to the first map of the day, it's gonna be Rondo all the way. But the problem is, which gonna be the hotspot? Usually it's gonna be New York's factory, will be Yulin, will be a different place entirely, because we're gonna unpack things now for the PUBG Mobile Regional Clash 2025. Let's start it off with our first map of Rondo.
Here we go, Choo Choo. This is our very first match as we will see the flight path coming off from the southern quarter map, as I do assume, as we do see a little bit more of that block. But also keep in mind there are potentially 2 flight paths that we're going to be taking a close look at. So, of course, we will enjoy not only the gameplay, but the entire scenery of what Rondo really has to offer as we kick off this clash between South Asia, Southeast Asia, and of course our world champions hailing from Korea. CD Alliance, the first one to be moving off of the plane. It seems like we didn't really get too much of a sight. There we go. Double flight
Wow.
path. One starting from Buhopan and another from the corners of Jazena.
Jadina City seems to be very vacant. I don't think everybody wants to be there. I mean, the structures, the skyscrapers will actually block so many views. But I think a lot of teams probably just going to focus on New York's factory. We do know that's going to be one of the hottest spots down there. But surprisingly, for A1 and Celcom DG Alliance, Lu Hao scattered. Jimmy seems to be a bit parted ways, a bit far compared to all the rest of his comrade. But Ting Long Garden now. I'm not a big fan of Ting Long Garden, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, we do have engagement between these two teams. It's going to be Hora Esports, if I'm not mistaken, fighting against who will it be?
Well, we're about to find out right now. Is Horror Esports having Sleepy transfer coming in from DRS on load and already picking up the weapon, but quickly gets knocked down. Oh, that was so swift. Sleepy did not manage to respond, and Horror Esports finally having no fear to actually go and tag around. First circle appears over onto the northeast corner map. That's going to be good news for the side of ATR, but the battle continues on. As it seems like Yangon Galacticos, they were the ones to trill on the Purple Hearts.
I mean, this is going to be just on the outskirts of Tuling and Danqing's area. But for YG, they managed to triumph for now. And they still have one more player around that corner too. So I don't know how No Fear will get out of this. So probably won't. And I like this infos. So it's random. And that's making it even harder for the players, right? Because you don't know which flight path you're taking as well. But for YG, Hora, last member, will be discovered. But it's down to only 1 HP left.
Wow.
Oh, this is going to be tough.
Very tough, but he's trading right back though. So dangerous for either one. Master Smile just pins him down. He does get the headshot, and that secures it for Yangon Galacticos. A rough start for Hora Esports as they walk away with no points, but this is still the very first game, so I guess it's a little warm up for these teams, hot dropping each other to contest for the spot. Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, Danqing area is also very tricky to play around because right now, I mean, this is quite a residential area. There's so many apartments, so they have to actually clear all the corners down here. And what I love about this map is, even though despite it has so many structures, right, but it's not something that, you know, if you remember back in the days, like when Vikendi was still there, there's so many towns and structures, but due to the very different levels of ground, make it so difficult for the players to see each other. Now, even though we have a lot of structures in this map, but the levels of the ground don't differ too much.
True enough, and now that you talk about structures as well as some of all these terrains as well, now even throwables can even blow a hole on the ground so that you can actually find a little bit more cover even despite you being outside in the open. Or if you find a pickaxe and you try to dig a hole to get a little bit more of a defensive structure, that is also very, very doable as well here inside of Rondo. First, we get these players onto the Pico bus and as well as the flank early on. It's going to be DRS trying to get some safe refuge from the hands of Range as RG is going to be trolling onto that player, but apparently it doesn't seem like there's too many RNG players around. So Killer YT, he's off to a good start.
Now, I love about Pico Bus that you can have love-hate relationship here. I mean, you will probably want to slow it down, and you have to have a very good vehicle. I suggest Pico Bus will be one of it because of how big the map is, and you can't find gas cans everywhere, by the way. So to have the Pico Bus, it's great, but if you happen to be in EMP zone, any vehicle will not work in that EMP zone. The minus point about the Pico Bus is just that sometimes you cannot drive too fast. If not, you know, it's going to take some time. It will slow down a lot. So it's going to be a love-hate relationship based on what you want to play and how fast you want to rotate yourself in the map.
Yeah, I absolutely do agree because they're relying on the battery levels where it does take a while to actually recharge as well. So if you see an enemy team, you either really want to sprint for it and get yourself into a safe vicinity or just trailblaze them. It's definitely down to how they really want to take that form of a battle. And on top of that, like you mentioned before, as much as it's super fast on how they can just rotate around map with the Pico Bus, if there's an EMP zone appearing on top of your head, that Pico Bus is not going to function at all. So I guess that's where it is going to be difficult.
Oh,
And also, we have a new feature, the recall zone, where you could just bring those players back alive for one more shot in the game.
and that's the thing. We talked about this as well, right? So when it comes to the recall, I love so much that they actually implement it in this map. So everybody a bit more bold when it comes to engaging into fight. They're not being too scared about, maybe I get revived despite we're having a 3-player, or even that solo player can actually bring some of the glory back with that recall tower, by the way. So anything can happen if you don't finish a team straight away. You might act, but you're back in the back later on.
True enough. We're already looking at D plus Kia to start off in South Stadium, but on the outskirts of Stadium, 7-9 is currently under the EMP zone, so hopefully they just keep some of their vehicles safe. There's some gas vehicles at least with the Sia, so that's okay, but is there anyone holding either the Blanc or even the Pico Bus? Doesn't seem like it's going to affect them all too much, and for now, it's going to be A-okay.
I mean, but EMP zone, even if you're not using those EV, it will still shut down your vehicles. That's why I think the SAM 9 players just now, they were driving around the edge of the EMP zone just now, just to avoid their mobility to be put on hold. They're being very aware regarding the position in the map as well. You have to put all your focus out when it comes to Rondo because there's so many things happening at the same time. But when it comes to SAM 9, they just passed the bamboo forest where last time we saw it, that's where the EMP zone was, so everybody tried to avoid it. But for DRS, I think they're just taking their own time to loot. I mean, it's a big map, right? It's super massive map.
It definitely is, and not only do we have some stores available, this is going to be a pyramid store where you can open blind boxes, discounted item, and I heard that certain stores you can even make purchases of the emergency pickup for you to rotate around the map much easily. So definitely it's going to be a high value location. You can just spot some of these stores to just equip yourself maybe with even level 3 gear. So I really want to see all these players utilize all these new features in the map. Starting off with BTR, I think that they're just going to have a decent rotation, starting things a little bit more smoothly. I think the only altercation that we just saw early on, unfortunate for Horror Esports, right? If they did have at least Sky to survive, maybe they could just go in for the recall. But since the whole team is out, no chance to even get the recall done.
I think that was the plan for Sky at first, but I still found it out by the players of YG just now early on. Now, speaking back about the premium stores, by the way, I love the fact that you touched about you can actually get some even airdrop weapons if you buy at the premium market or stores or supply. That's only 2 places that actually do have those premium market, by the way. That's going to be in Rinjiang and also in Luohuaxing. And it's not going to be easy. I mean, like, you have to fight so many guards. Last time I saw some people actually fought against 15 guards and 2 commanders.
50?
Yeah,
Wow.
just to get to be at the area where you can actually buy those supplies. But it's going to be worth it. But at the same time, the damage is super high coming up from those bandits, also the commanders that's guarding over that site. So it's not going to be easy. And I would suggest, and you're probably going to be advising, if you want to drop that straight away as your first drop, that's not going to be the best place ever because you probably don't have enough supply just to fight against those guards.
Yeah, unless if your squad is confident enough that you can secure like all the M4s, all the ACAM to really fend everybody else and have just about enough utilities, then by all means do so, or else it's better as a checkpoint for them to just keep themselves pretty much healthy throughout the course of the run. Now, another EMP zone did hit over onto the members of the Savior. And interesting enough, there's also destructible bamboos. Now, this is definitely so tricky where there's barely enough cover coming into bamboo already, and you can just destroy these bamboos. Definitely not an easy task, but speaking of a task, Noble already on the hunt, getting the first pin down onto one of the members on the outskirts, and it's going to be a big trade that we're looking at as they take on the rest of RNG.
Probably gonna have a circle around where it just shrinks down, probably on top of Lost Track, but these are the champions that we're talking about. They're fighting just on the outskirts of Bamboo Forest, around the structures there, and also a couple of buildings, but for D plus Gyal. Now, it's a bit aggressive approach going straight into it, but this is gonna be the hot spot where everybody will cross their path on top. And we talked about this. Lost Track, Neox Factory is gonna be one of the most battled crossfire that we're gonna have throughout the entirety of Rondo, probably the entire day.
Absolutely, and we're already looking at EMP zones around the vicinity. There's D plus Kia still on the hunt, trying to push towards the hillside to cut across Bamboo, and it is definitely a daunting task when we're looking at D plus Kia with such a big range of coverage. Sure, they might actually see some movements, but it doesn't seem like they could actually get some firm pickoffs. So R3G, they cut their losses, but of course, if they do find themselves a recall spot, then they should be able to bring their teammates back. But right now, teams are keeping themselves busy. Void Donkey has now emerged to also appear right across the Savior. So Nate's got to be absolutely careful in this scenario.
They're just nearby the rim of the circle. Last time we saw, it was around just on the northern side of the Task Track. Now, about Task Track and Neox Factory, I love to play around Neox Factory a lot. There's so many big factories and warehouses around there, but you have to check every corners because there's so many factories in there. The moment you step out from that factory, it's going to be somebody shooting around the corner as well. But I know what Levi's doing. Now, in case you guys don't know, we do have pickaxe in there that can actually alter the terrain. Only the ground, not the water, or nothing about the concrete. Or I don't think a rock can actually works as well, but the ground can actually dig by the pickaxe. And also you mentioned before with the hand grenades, that will create a crate for the player if they need to barricade themselves in case of emergency.
Yeah, Levi's is just trying his luck. It's like, oh, I'm trying to mine for gold or something by the rocks, and seems like he's not really getting too much out of it for now. But just take a look at RNG. They were looking for this recall spot. But it's going to be Jibna having his vehicle already on the verge of destruction. D plus Kia really not letting them off the hook at all.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, we know how aggressive they can get. That's why they're #1 in the last year PMGC, by the way. But for Jibna, I think he's waiting for the help to just arrive. But he got himself caught in a trap 2 ways, being hammed down on the side of D plus Kia players. I don't know how he can get out of this. He does have only one smoke though, but how to get out without vehicle? Well, you can wish for one more thing. The thing I like about horses is that they don't stay in one place too long sometimes. They do walk. So hopefully there's a horse coming over to Jibno's side. Well, we're looking at Mormon. He's climbing up the highest ground. So Mormon, he's treating this map like a Miramar map.
Wow. That's the thing about pro players. Like, they want to test everything out. Where you want to see if this buggy could actually take you to the top. It seems like Mormon is stuck halfway across. DRS doing exactly the same thing. And this is just an awkward situation, especially more towards the side of DRS because they're on the blue zone. Meanwhile, Mormon's like, okay, try me, bro. You can try climb up here, and I'm just going to be absolutely fine waiting for you to move up, and I'm just going to take you down.
I don't know if anyone want to actually drop by Lo Hua Sing for the premium market, but I don't think they will actually invest too much of their resources to fight against those guards because they're just going straight towards the bridge on the northern side of Lo Hua Sing, where we actually see there's a patch of land in between and there's a bridge in between. So they might be ended up still, despite there's so little water inside of this map, we're still gonna have a bridge circle.
Yeah, this is getting a little bit more tense right now where you just take a look at the terrains. At least they do get decent cover. 7-9 tried really hard to actually shoot down these players of 7-8, but of course, It's just a little bit of attack, not much of a full collapse. So thankfully for the side of 7E, they are happy to sit not too far away from that river for now. I would expect more teams to be opting to do exactly that as well. So that's the thing about even taking the high grounds. It's not going to be a clear-cut answer into how these trades are going to go unless they do set up good enough choke points on multiple areas for them to actually pick players off. But speaking of which, Zeta already spot out Yuhai moving across, so he's going to get tagged for a little bit. D-Saber's also pretty much around, so this is a really tough spot to be for Sendai.
I mean, this is a tough spot to be for everybody that's crossing over to that side of the bridge, wants to go over that side of the bridge, because we're right now just on the outskirts of Muho Pan. And they need to cross over the other side. Like you mentioned, there'll be a couple of choke points, but I don't think that much of choke points. It's basically a not really flat plane when it comes to this map, but you can easily visualize everybody because of how wide the view can get. As long as you got yourself that vantage point that's pretty premium, it depends on where you want to stand yourself. Like how I just mentioned, Tony K, despite he's driving on top of this small hill, you can still see the neighbor next to it. And I don't think DK, he can actually handle this by himself. I don't know where are the rest of teammates are.
Yeah, he just tries to perhaps scout out ahead, and it's absolutely unsafe as Vampire Esports just collapse upon him. So it's going to be a straightforward takedown. The rest of RG also moving around the corner. Shipna, we've seen him before trying to rotate around. He found himself a new vehicle, but he got to keep the second vehicle running.
I don't know how he actually managed to escape unscathed at the point where he was being cornered down at first. But for RNG, they're not wasting any more time. They're going to go straight towards the bridge. They know for a fact they need to cross over as fast as possible because this is going to be one of the biggest choke points when it comes to the team that's coming in very late. Wow. So this circle divided the side of the map, the two sides, whether you want to be on the left or right side of the bridge. But it's going to be the small patch of land. RNG can actually just gatekeep that and just try to choke all the teams coming up from the right side of the map, including R3G. And also, for example, like A1 is there. There's 3 teams that can actually farm those eliminations, but unfortunately for RNG, they lost a Jibna in the process.
Yeah, or else if they would have actually kept majority of their members alive, they would just gatekeep everybody by the far eastern corner of the map, because that bridge is going to be so hard to bypass so long as RNG is going to be holding on to that terrain. But right now, DX definitely having a really good spot to just hold out against everybody else. So definitely a whole lot of business to do over on the hillside as BTR takes on Cellcom Digi Alliance.
Oh, I just hope they have those charge backpack, the level 2, but can tank against the zone. What we'll call it, a safe jackpot or something. But I think 7-9 is very, very interested to go where Cellcom Digi Alliance and BTR is going at. So they might actually thinking about trying to be a third party if they want to. And these two teams right now, they are in high pressure mode. The blue zone start to close in, and BTR is start to losing members like flies one by one, being plucked out by these Xaviers as well from afar. I mean, we're looking at Cellcom Digi Alliance versus BTR, but these Xaviers, we thought it's going to be a different team coming over. It's going to be 7-9, but despite their fight against 7-9, these Xaviers also seem to be very busy and nosy when it comes to stealing those eliminations. Unfortunately, they will also bang up quite early this time if they cannot keep up with this fight.
A lot of ferocity coming out of 7-9 right now as the rest of the Saber just tries to crash the gates open, and here comes the rest of Void Donkey taking part in the action as well. Perfect timing, and does buy some time for the side of the Saber, and just like that, 7-9, they crashed out because of the pressure coming in from the Vietnamese as well as the Indonesian teams of Southeast Asia. Look at the calls. Zeta, he spawned up perfectly with another barricade, and now he is going to get a lot more cover. And with the rest of Vampire Esports arriving as well, the coast is not clear.
That's going to be the emergency barricade that they actually have the flare over just now. And they actually got 2 of them for Void Donkey. I mean, if you're not being careful, you just stand right beneath where the spawn or the emergency barricade happen to land, you're going to instantly die as well. So that's going to be a bit tricky for you to actually play with the emergency flare or barricade just now, because you might actually block your own teammate if you're not being careful about it.
If it spawns on top of you, you might even get knocked as well. But thankfully, that did not happen. Meanwhile, Paragin trying to defend. There's barely enough space left for the side of the Saber, but the trade back, Lucy goes down.
Oh Levi trying to find a way out, zigzag himself away. It feels like they play like an maze. It's a three-way war right now. Vampires, I don't know which one to just focus on first. Parajin and Levi, they are focusing on Void Donkey, Zeta and Razak. Razak cooking up the nade while Vampires try to just push down D-Save. It's been caught up two ways here, but Parajin and Levi calmly try to calculate which one to take action first. They will choosing Vampires over the other side. And right now, Levi taking his own risk and hopefully can breach through this barricade of vehicles. But they did not make it happen. But Vampires, I mean, they have to thank to Void Donkey because the Void Donkey just saved them just now.
They saved him, but this time Void Donkey says, I'm not going to save you for far too long because I got to win this battle myself. They will eventually take out the rest of the Vampires, but over on the outskirts, that D plus Kia as well as BTR, they're fighting tooth and nail for that high ground terrain while the rest of Void Donkey has opened up a lot more room for them to play things out. The circle goes by the edge of the bridge as well, so this is going to go directly in the center where there's barely enough cover for everybody on board.
This is a great circle for RNG, but unfortunately, they don't have enough members unless there's a recall tower somewhere nearby. So it's probably going to be a big time saving for the side of RNG if they can just respawn their teammates down there. But for the side of 7th Element, they're still in the game. We're down to only 8 teams in such a short time. This is Rondo, guys.
It has been super rowdy. We see even some of all the top teams across whichever region, Southeast Asia, South Asia, they take on each other. So far, a lot of the Southeast Asian teams have already collapsed where they were taking battles after battles. And that also includes our global champions, D plus Kia. They have 6 points, though. So that's a really decent margin for them to start with. Meanwhile, I believe that 7th Element are already on the hunt to take over that position where RNG is currently at under the bridge.
Don't forget about the smash roll as well, because whoever gets the chicken with high kill volume, this one will actually take the lead and probably just going to win the PMRC straight away, if that's going to be the case for the third game. But for A1 Esports, they spotted out BTR player. And we do have another one by the does it. It's going to be Exatron Gaming taken down as well. We're down to only 7 teams right now, but it's going to be the fight at the shoreline nearby the bridge on the outskirts of Lo Hua Sing right now. As for Durales, down to only, never mind, he's done. And that's going to be R3G or Regicide across the other side, all the way beneath that bridge and shot him down.
And he's in the covers of smoke. That shot was absolutely lethal. And take a look at the circle. It moves towards the direction of Void Donkey over south. So it did not cover any from the bridge. The rest of 7 Elements, excuse me, are R3G, as well as the rest of Yangon Galacticos. They will now need to move into the vicinity. I think that somebody's going to try to swim across, and that might just be Roshan. But YG, they can actually push downwards to challenge that spot where Void Donkey is currently at.
I'm surprised Void Donkey still have so many of their players, despite we saw how brutally they will be engaged by the other teams before. But on the side of YG, they still have a full squad. We just mentioned about Void Donkey. They barely have enough cover here. The only thing that they can cover themselves with is going to be that Pico Buzz. And thankfully, they drop themselves couple of barricades, emergency barricades flared that call on 4 blocks to get themselves some covers. But will it actually help for Void Donkey here?
At least it buys a little bit more time as well as space because there is that pressure coming from R3G's favorite own Roshan. So Roshan and hoping that at least it gets them just about enough cover before the rest of YG pushes through. So I think the big threat right now is definitely going to be Yangon Galacticos because Void Donkey, they just couldn't afford to actually peek upwards because it will be very, very difficult for them to eventually do much with. Emergency cover flare, as you can see on the screen, it just gives you a little bit more of all these stuff that you can get coming in from the store. And of course, to put into good use. So Void Donkey, they definitely came in with a plan.
I just hope there's an EMP zone suddenly pop in the middle of the circle here right now. So nobody can actually use their scope anymore at this point. YG pushing in, going straight for Void Donkey. So it's only between these two teams. YG do have the upper hand when it comes to their resources as well, their manpower. But Void Donkey has been very, very smart when it comes to how they try to maneuver and outplay YG, playing around the slopes with so many little barricade and little structures, using their vehicles and also the emergency barricade flare just now. But unfortunately, when it comes to manpower, YG still have it better.
Yeah, they're just fighting tooth and nail just to try to flush them out. Razak as well as Vexy left over onto the corner. Razak now goes for a jump shot, but not quite enough. Vexy covers fire with that AUG to try to take out the rest of God Galacticos, but they go down. And God Galacticos, the champions of the PMCL, will now take a first chicken dinner here in Rondo.
Now, I do want to tally up the scores because the scores will matter so much in PMRC since we have this match rule at the benchmark of 30 points here. I think probably they're going to have around 10 points for chicken dinner plus elimination